Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dan Warren, and I'm the conductor for the upcoming concert with the ROSE Orchestra in the Rose Theatre in Brampton on Saturday, the 29th of April. Part of this program includes a piece that I've actually written. You know, I've been doing lots of arranging and orchestrating for many years, and I decided it was time to set my hand to writing something original. So my brother, who passed away in 1988, after he passed, I found several books of his poetry, and I've taken 5 of those poems and set them to music. And what I think is a beautiful, fitting tribute to the memory of him as a poet, and also as an artist. As you can see, some of these paintings on the wall behind me, those were painted by my brother as well before his passing. He was confined to a wheelchair for virtually all of his life, and he lived a wonderful life. He was an amazing guy. He was hysterical. I mean, really just funny as can be, very quick wit. But he struggled with his disability throughout his life. And these poems, they really capture that idea of the struggle and yet the joy that he really had in his life as well. He had moments of darkness. It was difficult, very difficult, as you can imagine, but really moments of just absolute wonder at his ability to get along in the world. And he lived on his own in an apartment in Toronto that was designed specifically for handicapped people, but he just lived life to the fullest. It was an amazing, amazing life that he had. So I've written this piece. It's called The Age of the Heart, and it has 5 movements, and I set it for baritone and orchestra, and I have a very dear friend of mine, Dan Lichti, who is singing. Dan has been a part of my professional career ever since I started professionally 45 years ago. I've toured all over Europe with him. He was singing song cycles and Mahler, and just I've done Bach with him and Mendelssohn. Just throughout my entire career, he and I have been really together in a lot of it, and I was so thrilled when he agreed to sing these songs. So the first song is called Minutes Pass By, and it's set to the pulse of a heartbeat, and you can hear, or the ticking of a clock, and as the minutes are passing by, Steve, my brother Stephen, he reflects on the idea of life passing and how people assess who we are so much of the time based on either what we do or what we look like, or how beautiful we are, or how tall, or you know, how accomplished. And many things Steve couldn't do, but the things that he did do, he found it was frustrating that people didn't see him as the person that he really truly was, but what they looked at him and they saw was the wheelchair and the infirmity and the disability. So he's trying to get us to look at the heart, to find where the true meaning of life is within a person, in the heart, rather than the externals. The second movement is called If I Could Paint You Well. And he was a painter. Many of the paintings that he did, you can see they're quite small, because he didn't have the ability to paint at huge canvases. So this piece was a love song to his beloved. If I could paint you well, if I could paint you hope, if I could paint you peace, if I could paint you love, and the various ideas of each of those gifts that he viewed in his beloved. And it's really just such a beautiful, beautiful song. The third piece is called, I have to look here, it's called The Kiss of Freedom. When Steve was about 18 years old, I think, he received his first electric wheelchair. He was able to have some limited mobility. Usually somebody had to push him wherever he had to go, and usually it was me, and we had the greatest time. I can tell you, we were the best of friends. But when he got his electric wheelchair, he experienced a freedom living in Toronto that he had never experienced before. He was able to go where he wanted, provided the sidewalks were shoveled, provided there were ramps at the corners, which came around quite a bit during his life. And he just was thrilled at the possibilities that were open to him to go wherever he wanted, whenever he wanted. So he talks about this freedom with his wheelchair, and in the end of the song, he's so overjoyed with it, and yet he says, "Well, as beautiful as it is, and the paint is fresh and new, and everything is shiny, but it still really is my prison cell." He realized there was a bittersweetness there, where he had some freedom, but he still was confined to this chair. The next movement is called Foreign Shores. Steve went on a wonderful holiday with his girlfriend. They went to all over Europe, and when they got there to England, they rented a car, and his girlfriend said, "Steve, there's 3 pedals on the floor. Why are there 3 pedals? There should only be 2. He realized that she'd never driven a standard transmission, so he'd driven around with me a bunch, and I had a standard always. So he taught her how to drive, having never driven a car himself. He taught her how to drive a standard transmission car on the left-hand side of the road in England on their trip, and then they went over to the continent, and they also went through Paris and Belgium and Amsterdam, Holland, a bunch of places. But anyway, they had a great time, and then at the very, very end of the trip, she said, "I'm done." That was it. So a really heartbreaking event after all. But anyway, it provided some great inspiration for him for his painting, but the demise of the relationship was difficult. The last piece is called Would That It Were, and it's would that it were a man could fly, would that it were a man could do these various things that are so difficult to do in this world that we live in. And this is sort of a waltz. It's very uplifting and beautiful, and he talks about forgiveness. He talks about coming to grips with his own disabilities and who he was in this life, and it's just, the poetry is so beautiful. I just could not just leave it in the books that I found. So I decided, we've got this piece, 5 movements sung beautifully by Dan, and it really is, if you're afraid because it's contemporary music, don't be afraid. It's really very beautiful. It's very accessible and lovely. And I think if you come to hear the Rose Orchestra, they're sounding absolutely marvelous on this world premiere of this piece, The Age of the Heart. So I look forward to seeing you at the concert. I'd love to have you there to come and experience this premiere of this work. Thank you so much. See you soon.